I'd like to welcome our first guest to the show. Lu.Ci, actually, I think she's been on with Lion before. She is a singer, songwriter, poet, and a musician. And she joins me on the line now. Good evening, Lu.Ci. How are you?
Hi, I'm good, thanks. Thanks for having me on. I've been so excited I could pop really.
Oh, don't do that just yet. You stay
I'll
exactly where
try
you
not
are.
to.
Welcome back. Obviously, I know you've been on with Lion before, but you're back now.
Yeah.
You've got some new music out as well, so we'll talk about that in just a moment. How has the last kind of 18 months been for you during the whirlwind that has been the pandemic, the lockdown? It's affected everybody differently, and it's something that at the moment I think we can all relate to as well, this conversation around the last kind of 18 months and what it's been like.
I mean, well, I think it's been really difficult for everybody, to be completely honest. I mean, there's people that haven't been able to work for quite some time. There's lots of people that have, landed themselves in financial difficulties. And it's been quite a lonely period, especially kind of going through the whole lockdown scenario, which was completely different to anything that any of us had ever been through before. I actually found it quite fruitful because I had my home studio. So for me, it gave me a little bit of a break of seeing people, dare I say.
Mm.
Um, it just gave me the opportunity to be a little bit more creative and write a
Right.
lot, kind of poetry, music, and so on and so forth. And I actually wrote my new single that's coming out during the lockdown period. It's actually about kind of all that kind of isolation and so on.
Do you think, as somebody that has these creative outlets, that helped you cope with the situation? Because, we've seen a huge increase in, the decline in people's mental health and, lots of kind of problems coming up for people. But for you, as someone who has those creative outlets, are they a way for you to kind of, deal with, I guess, the stresses and strains of living in the world that we live in today?
Oh, 100%. I mean, it's writing therapy. Any kind of difficult emotions, anything that you need to kind of release, it definitely does help. It gets it out, especially if you don't feel that you can speak to anybody or there's nobody there that you can get any kind of advice from. Just kind of writing it down, whether it be just a letter or popping down on a note, or even if you are kind of writing some poetry or some music, it definitely does help getting it out. And what it does is it just kind of transposes all of these thoughts from your mind and it just
Mm,
releases it, and it is
yeah,
therapy. you
yeah.
know lots of psychologists will use that, for their clients to be able to get them through a particular scenario.
Yeah, I do a thing called a brain dump, where if I'm kind of overwhelmed or overcome with emotion, I will just get a piece of paper and a pen and scribble down every thought that I've got in my head just to get it out of my head and onto the
Mm.
paper. Although if I read it to you, Lu.Ci, it wouldn't sound like a poem or a song. It would sound like a rant, a crazy rant, I'm pretty sure. But it works for me, and by the end of it, I feel like I can kind of relax and everything has left my mind and has gone onto the paper. So I guess it's a kind of similar thing. You just do it in a much more creative and artistic kind of way.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's about, it just releases and it calms those anxieties.
Yeah.
And you spoke about mental health earlier. And, throughout this whole kind of lockdown period, the current climate, even now, it has affected so many people's mental health. And I like to think of myself as a mental health advocate.
Mm.
And I write about that as well. My first single, Go Used to Know, was about that. Control was also about that, about mental health and the struggles with that as well, and anxieties and so on, with an empowering message, obviously. But, just writing all these things down, getting it out, it is so therapeutic. And painting's also really good for it.
Mm. Yeah.
Painting's fab. Yeah.
I think creating, if you've got any kind of creative outlet, it just allows you to kind of, focus on that and find a way for those emotions and that energy to be released, as you
Mm.
spoke about from your person. So let's talk a little bit more about you and music and your love of creativity and your love of words, I suppose, as well. Where did that come from, or when did you kind of realize that you were, creative and those creative paths were for you?
Cool. I mean, to be honest with you, it's probably, if you know, if you ask any kind of singer or musician or anyone that's creative, they'll probably say, well, when I was really young,
Mm.
and generally it kind of starts like that. There'll be something that'll spark it off. I mean, I remember standing in my mum and dad's kitchen when I was about 7 years old, singing a rendition of "I Will Always Love You," Whitney Houston.
Oh.
So, and I don't think it sounded quite as good as her at that time. I mean, I also remember stealing my dad's Frankie Valli and the Four Seasons tape when I was about 5 off of him, 4, 5, and he never got that back. And I've just been singing ever since. I mean, I studied music. I've been in musicals, you know, and I always wrote poetry from when I was very young. Although probably back then it was a bit more depressive than what it is now with
Oh.
the struggles of school. Well, that's what happens. It's quite
Mm.
pressurizing, really, for kids, isn't it?
Yeah.
But yeah, that's kind of where it all came from, to be honest. That kind of musical influence. I've always had that from my family. My dad's always been quite musical, and my brother as well. And it just kind of grew from there, really. And I've just embraced it.
And with you kind of embracing that, and I guess from where you started to where you are now, it's probably been, I suppose, for most artists as well, you go on this kind of journey and you try out
Mm.
different things and different genres of music, and then you kind of find something, I suppose, that suits you. Are you still kind of in the experimental phase? Do you think you'll always be in that phase, or have you landed a kind of sound? And if so, what is that?
I've got to be honest. I think everybody is always going to be in the experimental stage, because I think if you're not trying something different, then you're not going to grow.
Mm.
And growth is so important. Um, I think kind of knowing yourself and giving yourself the freedom to be you is something that's really, really important.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, experimental stage, yeah, all the time, all the time. I'm always up for trying out new things, trying out new beats, you know, going across genres and so on, because I'm a songwriter, so I write all different genres. Um, but yeah, I mean, I'm always growing. I'm always growing. So experimental, yeah, I would say so. But I think if you're not experimenting, then you're not going to grow, really. So always try something new, see where you go. It's all a journey. My journey's just begun.
Yeah.
And so far, so good. I mean, here I am on the BBC, so it's not going too bad.
Not at all. You're doing great, and we're going to play your new single as well soon, which is lovely. So when
Yeah.
it comes to you deciding what music that you want to be on, then, or if you're choosing beats or you're choosing tracks, do you just kind of listen to stuff and think, actually, I fancy giving this a bit of a go, or I've already got some lyrics that I think could work with this? What's that kind of process like for you?
Well, generally, what will happen is I'll start writing something, and I'll sit down at my keyboard, or I'll sit down at the guitar, or I'll sit in my studio and I'll start writing a beat or so on. And what I'll do is I'll create some form of a draft, and it's always something emotional. I always write from a very kind of real, raw place. So if it's not some kind of a truth from me, then I
Mm.
don't feel like I can write it. I mean, I can write a song for anybody. That's not a problem. But for me to have any kind of emotion in it, and for other people to be able to relate to it, then I know that it's got to be real to me. So there'll be some kind of emotion behind it. And usually what will happen is I'll start off with a few bars, or start thinking of some lyrics or whatever. I'll get something in my head, and then I'll do a couple of verses and maybe a chorus. And then what I'll do is I'll ring my producer Steve at Jam Pack Recordings. He's fab. I love him. And I'll go, look, I've got this, here we go. What do you reckon of this? What should we do with that? And then he'll have a bit of a play around. We kind of bounce between the two of us. And then that's when the magic happens. And we just end up with this amazing, I have to say, it absolutely astounds me when the finished piece is complete. How you can actually transpose something in your mind that nobody else can hear,
Yeah.
but you know what it is, and you've got this vision and you can hear it, and then you transpose it musically for other people to hear it and to feel those emotions and to relate from it. I just find that mind blowing.
Well, incredible. I don't think, I mean, even if I try and hum things that are in my head, no one would get anywhere close to where I was going. But that's probably because I'm tone deaf and have no musical ability whatsoever. You know, I have these conversations, you know, often with artists, and people talk about, you know, collaborating and the importance of having other people around you, whether it's the producers that they're working with or the songwriters that they're working with. And you just mentioned your producer there. How important is it to find the right kind of people to collaborate with when it comes to getting that sound right, and to getting it, as you say, out of your head and into other people's heads, I guess, really, and out there into the world in the way that you wanted it?
I think the most important thing is to find somebody, and you said it, when you're working with somebody that's going to work with you. Okay.
Mm,
So not somebody that is trying to control your sound or to push you in a certain direction, but somebody that's actually going to work with you to get the sound that you want. Somebody that shares the same vision that you have.
right.
Now, that's not going to be everybody. You can play the same two bars to one musician, for example, and they could hear a completely different melody.
Yeah.
They think it's going to go somewhere else, and you could play it to another musician, and they'll think it's going to be something completely different. So everybody's musical ear will hear something different, but it's important to try and find somebody that's going to be on the same wavelengths as you. Now, that might be the first person you meet. It might be the third person. It might be the 10th person. It may even be more. But the important thing is to keep going until you find your
Right.
people. And it's super important to make sure that you've got the right people around you that do believe in you, and are going to push you as well, and be there for you. So all of these points are really super important. But if you haven't met that person yet, please don't give up. Keep going, keep pushing, keep going for your dream, because there is going to be somebody there and you are going to find them. It's just like sifting through mud to find gold. It's the exact same process.
Just got to keep going until you find your piece of gold, and then you're good to go. And like you
That's
say,
it.
I mean, I find it great that you say that, and incredibly encouraging as well, because I think it's all about timing, isn't it? And for some people, like you say, it might be literally be the first person they land on, whereas for someone else it could take a lot longer. But that's not a reason to give up or to stop trying. It just means you just got to keep looking until you find, as you say, your piece of gold. That was a beautiful way to put it.
Thank you.
And yeah, so you've been working on your EP. How's that been going?
Oh, so that's in process at the moment.
Yeah.
That's in process. I'm still in the process of writing that at the moment. I've actually got to finish off the trilogy. So there was, first of all, Girl You Used to Know, and then Control. And the third one is going to be a track, I'll tell you now, which is called Jealousy, which hasn't actually come out yet. And the reason for that is because I started to write I Need You. And because of the current climate, um, I just think it's so relatable to everybody, and it holds such an important message that we've all shared this moment in time together, that I just thought, we've got to release this now. Let's
Yeah.
release this now, and we'll finish off the trilogy. So after the trilogy, then the EP will be coming out. So
Wow.
there's lots to
You're
look forward to.
busy.
I'm super excited. I'm always busy
Always
writing and
busy.
creating.
The best way to be. And you just
Yeah.
mentioned, of course, I Need You and the message. Talk to us a little bit more about that, because I know it does have a really important message.
Yeah, so I Need You. So just because life as we knew it, the whole lockdown experience was so surreal. I know everybody hates to talk about it now, but it's one of these things that's happened. Hopefully we're never going to go through it again, but it was such a surreal experience. Life as we know it had been completely ripped away from us, and I just wanted to document it artistically. All right. I mean, I felt lost within this period myself, and everything was completely different. We were all missing out on so much, and we'd taken so many things for granted, that it just dawned to me that the whole of the country, in fact, the whole of the world, was going through the same experience all at once. And none of us were truly alone. Even if we'd lost, say, a part of ourselves, we were still experiencing this together. And that's when I found my inspiration to create this track. And the message that I want people to take from it is, do not take life, love, and others for granted. Enjoy every sense of freedom that you attain, and strive for your happiness. We've all lost this simple right once before. So, wake up every day knowing that you can achieve something that anything you wish, really. You just need to be prepared to experience it.
Wow, it's a really powerful message. And something actually that I think I found myself kind of saying a lot during this time is you don't know what you've got until it's gone as well. Is that kind of idea that, those things that we used to just love doing, like you say, take for granted, maybe suddenly we couldn't do them anymore. And you realise just how much you miss doing some of the simplest things or some of the smallest things. And especially, like you say, your loved ones and those people that are really special and important in your lives. And so, I mean, even you just saying that bit, we haven't even played the song yet, but the message that you want for the song, I guess, is so relatable and something lots of people can relate to. What have you got coming up over the next coming weeks and months? Have you got any performances planned? And if so, where are they happening?
So at the moment, I've only got a few kind of local gigs, so around the local area of kind of Twickenham and London, Richmond and so on. In the future, I am hoping to be doing some larger gigs at some festivals, but that's still in the pipeline. With it, everything's still very difficult at the moment, I'm finding.
There's not as much happening, is there?
No, there's not, and there's a lot of people that still aren't sure about going outside.
Yeah,
so it is very, very difficult, and there are venues that are still being really cautious about how many people they let in as well. And it's very, very difficult. It's still very difficult at the moment. So hopefully there's going to be some big things coming my way. There are some talks in the pipeline, but we're just going to have to wait and see.
Well, I know they're going to happen. Of course they are. And you're so busy getting everything ready for the EP, for the third track of the trilogy, that when you don't have time to worry about those things, I think they just somehow unfold anyway, don't they? Which is a beautiful thing. Lu.Ci, if people have been listening to this and they would like to follow you, they'd like to find out more about you and keep up to date with your movements, where can they follow you and find you?
All right, guys. So this is where you need to open up your Instagram, and you're going to find me on there, which is at lu.ci_p. That's the same on Twitter, lu_ci_p. And you can find me on Facebook at The Real Lu.Ci P.
There you go. Look at that. Perfect. Look, it's been so lovely to talk to you, and I'm really excited to play I Need You on the show. So thanks for being with us, and look after yourself. And I'm looking forward to hearing more of your music as well.
Perfect. Can I just say a really big shout out to Bartlett and Partners Estate Agents and Stone Road Brewer in Twickenham, and they've been supporting me throughout this campaign process, and I just want to say a big thanks, guys.
Oh, that's beautiful. Thank you, Lu.Ci. Take care of yourself.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye. On BBC Radio London, this is Lu.Ci and I Need You.